All right. Hello, and welcome to another Franchise Hockey Manager 3 stream. My name is Adam. I'm the community manager of Franchise Hockey. With me, as always, is FHM producer Jeff, who is pictured on your screen.
Hey, everybody.
And we are back with an absolutely new game. Jeff, what are we doing?
Well, if you didn't see yet, we released our fifth update for FHM3, version 3.3.109. That's 109 builds since we've started working on 3 now. We did that earlier today. There's a long list of changes and fixes and other things posted on the forum, so if you want to have a look, it's there. But what we're going to do tonight is start us up a new game and go through a lot of the new things that have been added. We've been playing that same old Leafs game that we started right shortly after release, I think. And it doesn't have all the nice bells and whistles that have been added in the various updates up until now. So in this game we'll be able to see things like the World and Junior Championships, etc., in addition to every new thing that we've added in with this update. And I think what we're going to do tonight is just get this game set up. Probably not going to be able to get too far into it, but I will be able to show you a couple of the bigger new features that we've added. So might as well get this rolling. We are going to start a Path to Glory game. And we are going to be playing as the Wings, trying to turn things around for them.
Yes, after much thought, Jeff and I decided on playing as the Wings in a new game.
It's a bit of a challenge. I mean, this is probably the worst the Wings have looked in quite a while.
Oh, they made, 25 straight seasons of making the playoffs?
Yeah, and their prospect pool isn't what it used to be. It's still not too bad, but we'll see if we can do any better at turning it around than they actually are. So just waiting for this to get set up, and we're going to be coming very quickly to one of the new things that was added in this most recent update. As soon as this I really need a faster computer, but what I really need is a solid-state drive, so this will all load a lot quicker. But at least gives you a realistic expectation of how fast the game will run on your system if you haven't bought it yet, as mine is getting a little bit out of date.
Well, it's generating lots and lots of players, lots of attributes.
Yep, I'm going to leave every league activated. It's really not that much of a slowdown if you've been turning the other leagues off. My personal recommendation is to leave them all on. It won't increase the speed that much, and it can do some weird things with player development and player movement over the long term if you are using it if you're turning various leagues off, particularly some of the more important ones. So since we're the Wings, let's go with Jack Adams.
Absolutely. Guy who drafted Gordie Howe. How can you go wrong?
There we go. And now, can you remember what city Jack Adams was born in?
Let's see. Jack Adams was born in Fort William.
Thunder Bay.
No, Fort William.
Yeah, but they amalgamated and we only have the recent one in, so that's all we can do.
Yes.
we're not gonna set his actual birth date because that will be, I can't even go back that far in the database, can't get back in the 19th century, so we'll just make him about
Can we
35.
set his second nationality to Australian? I think that would be a good one for us to.
I have no idea why you think it would be a good idea, but let's go with Australian. And we are taking over the Wings.
Community manager of the baseball game is in our chat right now. That Sports Gamer, also known as TJ. It says, I think I need to make a team comprised of only players from Buffalo, Minnesota, and Detroit. Need to come up with a good name for them.
Now, this is one of the new things I want to show you. We've added a bunch of things to the setup of your manager's screen. It used to be you got a pretty bare bones setup on this screen where you would have to click all these up and down yourself. two new things we've added here are you can set your offensive and defensive preference the same way the actual AI general managers have a preference. It won't. The only thing it'll really have a big effect on is the tactic that gets chosen automatically for you at the start of the game, and there may be a couple of other. Oh, right. No, actually, I'm wrong about that. It will actually affect the effectiveness of some of the different tactics you choose. So if you've got, say, an offensive preference and you're choosing defensive tactics, they'll be slightly less effective, and vice versa. If if you're taking offensive-oriented tactics with an offensive preference, that'll be a little bit more effective. So what do you think we should go for here?
In terms of the offense,
yeah,
I think totally offensive.
I'm going to go with just offense. Totally offensive is probably a little risky in the NHL right now.
Okay.
If we were playing like the '82 Oilers, yeah, sure, no problem. But
all right, just offensive.
2016 Wings, and I think I will just stick with a balanced physical preference. Or do you want to lean a little more to physical?
I'm partial to leaning a little more physical myself.
Okay, a little sort of a big offensive power game. Now the GM templates, the two templates things on the right over here, are when I select one of these, just go to balanced. It will use up all the ratings points for you. It's not giving you any bonus points or anything. It's just arranging them in a sort of coherent way that lets you choose quickly what kind of GM you want to be. So I can move through the different ones, and you'll get a little description down at the bottom left showing you what generally what that profile is going to do. I think the one we're going to go with is Wheeler Dealer, because I know you like making trades.
Occasionally, yeah. Let's. I like making trades, yeah.
So we'll get that, pushes the negotiating skill up a bunch, so it's a little easier to. We've got a bit more of an advantage trading, and it also makes it a little easier to sign contracts. The coaching templates, there's a whole bunch more of those. Oh, actually, I forgot those. The templates are actually hooked up to the offensive and defensive preference, so you they will change as you change the templates, but you can always go back and set them manually as well.
All right.
So I'm an old defenseman, so I'm saying we should go with old defenseman. What did you play when you were playing?
I see old goalie. Oh, there you go. Switch it. I played both wing and defense. So
let's go with old forward then. We're gonna switch that to offensive and physical. And there we go.
Actually, better question. What did Jack Adams play?
Adams was a forward. He's actually in the Hall of Fame as, I don't know if he's in for his playing stuff, but he could be close even without the being GM of the Wings forever.
Yeah,
he's
the center.
Victoria in the old Pacific Coast League for a while, and one of the Toronto teams, the NHA. I'm trying to remember offhand, but yeah, really big scorer, star player. Okay, so now we're going to have a bit of a delay as the game is going to be setting up, and since we're starting a PTG game, that's going to go through simulating the early part of or at least the dead time in the off season, and get us right up to about a week before the exhibition season. Now I'm just trying to think of the other things we should ask. Oh, one thing I can mention that we won't really be able to see in here. We've changed the way the saving system in the game works. Previously it was possible if you happened to shut down the game or got a power outage or something, or the computer crashed in the middle of saving, there's a pretty good chance that was going to wreck your saved game. You could always keep a manual backup, but now we've broken the saving process into a couple of steps. So if you die in the middle of a save, you may lose the most recent data, but it's not going to. It'll just basically revert back to whatever you had on your last save. So that'll be a lot safer, and we're hoping we see a lot less, a lot fewer corrupted games. being reported to us when there's anything from a game crash to something going wrong with the computer that screws up the saving process. And the other thing we've done, I don't think I'm going to turn it on here because I've already got using a ton of space on my hard drive for save games from testing, but we've also added rolling saves, which will instead of just keeping one save, or having you to repeatedly rename the save to get backups, it will just keep I think it's, 2 saves or 3 saves? I can't remember how many Sebastian did, but it will keep 2 or 3 backup copies. I think it's two backup copies in addition to your main save. So you will it'll be if you've got that turned on, it'll be very, very difficult to lose a game.
Always important and good to know.
Yep. Well, very difficult to lose a save. You'll lose lots of games in the actual game itself, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We proved out with our previous couple of Leafs and Senators attempts. One thing is we're heading up this, still going with setting up the training, but in the last couple of weeks, Jan Smetana and I, the NHL researcher, and I've been pretty much gone over every single player in the NHL and AHL and looked at their ratings and did things like updating position data to reflect a little better how they're playing this season, and any other relatively recent information. We haven't updated the rosters themselves because we want those still starting to be as they were at the start of the season. But any surprising players or guys that were particular disappointments, say Kyle Connor, have been updated to be a little closer to how they've actually been performing. So, Connor gets to start in the AHL, or will probably be sent down pretty quickly if the Jets owner has any sense.
Well, he's down there now, and he's doing okay, I guess. Is that a good word? I mean, the team's not doing very well, but they're young again, and that's not fair. They were doing okay, and then the Jets took half their roster. So,
yeah, kind of like we just did in the Leafs game, which I think we're probably going to try and wind those up later this week, and we'll just do a recap of those before our next broadcast, because I think we're also going to be switching to a different historical game. I think we were talking about doing the 67 expansion team, probably the Kings, and going through a few years of historical, because there's a few new things I want to show in historical as well. And I also updated a lot of the late 60s players, so that's one part of the historical database that's in really good shape right now. And slowly rolling along to the start date. Let me see what I've got, like 150 lines of notes on the update, and I'm just looking for things that we can mention that we're not going to see in the games. One thing, I can show you this a little later, but the international tournaments, this is kind of big. We've added proper full histories for them now, and proper league standing screens, just like a regular league would have. So you don't have to go through the awkward thing of trying to dig through the individual team stats screens if you want to see how teams did in an international tournament. We've got the World Cup will be coming up in this, so I can show that off a little later tonight, I think, assuming we get that far. Let me see. I'll show you that in a second. I was going to tell you about the win-loss thing on the schedule screen. I think I mentioned that last week. I did a lot of minor tweaking of just sort of the simulation side stuff. Canadian players are slightly less likely to go to U.S. Canadian prospects. Young guys are less likely to go to U.S. colleges. We changed that last update, and I overdid it a little bit, so I pulled that back a little bit. We fixed a problem with the way draft rights for NHL players on players who are drafted out of U.S. colleges are handled. That's should give you the correct expiry dates now. Those were expiring a little too early. What else did I do? Here we go. Finally, we can get around to this. All right, I can get on to the bigger topics. Let me just see what we've got here. give you a quick look at the roster. You can see the wings are starting. I also updated the injury files, the starting injuries. So the wings are probably the worst hit ones for this. They've got 5 guys. Zetterberg with his knee, Thomas Yurko back, Franson and Joe Vitale concussion, and Kronwall with his knee. So they're kind of a mess off the start of the season. They've also got a bunch of guys, because they're
This would be a good time to sign
Nielsen,
a
just
couple.
about everybody. They've got a ton of guys away or at the World Cup. So unless we get, hopefully we'll get a few of those guys. Those guys have their teams knocked out relatively quickly, and we get some of them back. Otherwise, we're going to be going with a whole bunch of guys from Grand Rapids for the start of the exhibition season. But one thing about the wings, you can see they've got the goaltending situation. Jimmy Howard, 3 stars. Peter Mrazek, 2.5, but he has more potential than Howard because Howard is in his 30s now, probably isn't going to get any better. But Mrazek will be coming up, so you got the question: which one do you go with as a starter? But that is complicated even further. Whoops. I'm just gonna. I'm just going to have the assistant address. Whoops, I know what I'm going to have to do first. Forgot that I've got all these guys down, so I am going to have to call up guys from Grand Rapids to even be able to show you the new part of this. Jared Carreau is the backup. And what's our roster looking at? Looking like we need 5 more guys. It's we've got 3, 6... only 7 for. They're all.
How many guys do we have on? Excuse me. How many guys do we have on our for contract? Should we be looking at signing somebody to bring in a couple, maybe extra
we're
bodies?
We're 45 right now, so we can probably
we really don't
grab
want
a
to.
couple. But I'm just looking at this. Okay, I think I need to bring up 5 forwards. We got plenty of defensemen, but we got very little at forward and particularly left wings. So down to Grand Rapids. Anthony Mantha has obviously been doing pretty well for the wings in real life, so he's coming up. You can see that the ratings tend to reflect how they are. Svechnikov, that's 1 left wing. Other left wing, Tyler Bertuzzi, sure. Center,
Now that Bertuzzi isn't a relation to Todd, right?
It's his nephew, I think.
Oh, it is related. Okay.
Yeah, his son, Todd Bertuzzi's son, is playing in the OHL right now. I think he's 2018 eligible. Can't remember the name offhand. Or has he got 2? Can't remember if he's got 2 sons or 1, but he's got one of them is playing the OHL right now. It's a strange first name. Can't remember what it is. And let's bring up Dan Clary for probably the last. Oh no, he's contracted to Grand Rapids, so we can't do that.
Oh, we can't? Can we sign him?
We could, but I mean he's 35 and 1.5 stars. He's kind of a depth guy.
I always liked Cleary.
Yeah, good player. He was a big prospect coming up when he first got drafted, and then didn't really pan out that well, but kind of still scratched out a career, turned himself into a defensive forward. And free agent center, I cleaned out this a little, the top end of this a little bit. Trouba and Hampus Lindholm are still there as restricted free agents from the Leafs and the Jets and the Ducks. But other than that, R.J. Umberger, he's around. Jared Cowan, who's got that grievance, isn't signed with anybody right now because it has that injury buyout grievance with the Leafs going on. But we don't really need another defenseman.
Patrick Elias. That would be a total wings guy to bring in.
40 years. He's actually. I can't remember if he's got a starting injury in the database now. He actually was a start of the year.
I feel like that would be the
Nope.
perfect guy for the Wings to bring
Okay,
in.
so it's cheating a little bit because we're getting around the injury, but let's see what he wants. Oh man, he wants $4 million for 1 year.
That's enough.
How are we doing?
Do you have that cap room?
Oh, we got lots of. Even once it's at 80.3 because that's the 10% off-season cushion, but we got another 10 million room after that. So I'm gonna give him. Let's try about 3.8 and see if he goes for that. And yeah, he's not getting a no trade clause or anything like that. No, he's willing to come down to 4, so I think we'll do that.
He started at 4.
No, he was 4.1 something.
Oh, you said 4 million. Okay.
Yeah, that was approximating.
Well then.
Okay, so when we get our 40-year-old fourth line winger, and he's away at the World Cup too, so that doesn't.
Well, he can come in
immediately. But anyhow, getting back to what I was originally going to show you, switching over to the roster, I want to look at the strategy screen. There we go. Strategy screen, which is pretty much as it was before, but let's. First thing I want to show you is the new goalie starting system, which we've added in this version. What you can see here that you've got 7 different priorities, different categories of things. Start the hottest goalie, the best rested one, alternating goalies in back-to-back games, always starting goalie after a shutout, starting the best goalie just based on ratings alone, how frequently you start the backup, and whether or not you want to stick with the starter in the playoffs. And these work on a scale of 0 to 4. 0 means totally ignore it. Don't worry about that particular setting at all. It's not one of your priorities. And that increases gradually to 4 being a very high priority, as high as it can get. That doesn't necessarily mean it's always going to override the other ones, particularly if you've got several things set to 4. But it'll get very high consideration, presuming you're going to mix these up a little bit. Now we've got Howard and Mrazek. The situation here is Howard is slightly better than Mrazek right now. Mrazek's got more potential, so we probably want to split the starts fairly closely, and whoever's hot at the time, go with that guy. So I'm going to start the hottest goalie at 3. Start best rested. I'm going to make that a 2 because that's a fairly significant consideration when the goalies are relatively even. Alternating goalies in back-to-back games. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. We'll make that a 3. Always start a goalie again after a shutout. Yeah, absolutely. That's the unwritten rule. Start the best goalie. I'm not going to totally ignore that, but I am going to make it just a 1. Backup start frequency, I'm going to set that at 3 and may want to think about going to a 4 later just to see what the suggestions we're getting. And stick with the starter during the playoffs. Whoever you start the first game of the playoffs with, if you've got this setting up high, he'll tend to stick that. He'll tend to start all the games, unless one of the other settings he has a really bad game, gets really cold. That may override it. But it's a pretty the playoff setting has a pretty strong tendency to override the other ones. And what I'm going to hit down here is the lock settings button. Now, what the goalie starting system does is replace the old AI system that would pick the goalie automatically for you at the start of every game that you could only override by going into your lineup screen before a game, or really not even not in the pregame screen. The only time you could change it is if you actually went into the strategy screen while you in between games and made the change there. And I think we've all, if you've watched any of the previous podcasts, I'm really bad for forgetting to do that. I start the goalie one game, and then I put the backup goalie in for one game, and then I go back and start that. I play him as one game, and I mean to put the starter in, but I forget to do it, and we wind up with a backup goalie in for 2 games, and we lose a bunch of games that way.
Yeah, that's pretty easy to do.
Yeah, but there we go. So what this will do will there's two separate levels to this. One, you can guide the AI for what decisions you want to make with the goalies, which is particularly useful if you're playing in the sandbox mode. Where you want to play, say, a month or so at a time, or 2 months, you can set your lane, you can put your settings in, and know that the AI is going to make the kind of decisions that you would want to make with your goalies. And the other thing we've done with goalies, I'm going to go back to the 5-on-5 menu for this. You won't be able to... Actually, I've got to show you that. Well, we could... Okay, yeah, here we go. It does work. The goalie screen, you can see each of these guys has the little snowflake item icon behind their name, which we stole from out of the park, but Marcus was nice enough to let me use it. That and the corresponding flame icons indicates how hot or how cold the goalie is. There's only one. If there are 5, there's actually 6 levels of relative hotness for a goalie. The 0 level, which is what both guys are at right now, and you can also see that's indicated over here in the dress screen, a little 0 behind it. That indicates that they're completely cold, and obviously it's the start of the season. That's how they start. And as they warm up, which is one of the things we'll be doing in the exhibition season, trying to get them relatively ready to start the season, the snowflake icon will turn to flame icons, and you can either have 1, 2, 3, or 4 of those, which correspond to levels 1 through 5. Wait, does that make sense? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
And no, wait, there should be 5. Yeah, up to 5 flame icons, and that tells you how hot relatively the goalie is. And that isn't just a tracking setting to show you how he's done recently. That actually affects how he's going to play, or probably will affect how he's going to play. What we've done is at the start before every game, the goalie's default ratings get lowered by a set amount, and then there's a semi-random number that's added to them based on how hot or cold he is at the moment. So if he's cold, he's probably not going to get the ratings that his ratings, the ratings that were taken away from the start. He may only get, if he's had 2 points taken away in most of his goaltending categories. If he's cold, he may only get 1 or even 0 of those points back. And then the warmer he gets, the more likely he is to get extra points. So if he's got the full 5 hotness rating, he can get up to 5 points added to those goaltending ratings where they've only been reduced by 2 at the start. So it's still possible for him to have a bad game while he's hot, but it's a lot more likely that he's going to play above his normal abilities. So that makes it a little bit more challenging. We've got, just because Mrazek isn't here, we've got a 1.5-star guy and a 3-star guy for our goalies. And obviously, up till now in the game, the obvious choice is, why not just start Jimmy Howard in every game because he's the better guy. Doesn't make sense. But now, if Howard cools off and the backup happens to get hot, it can suddenly make a lot more sense particularly if you're in a tight race for the playoffs or in a playoff series itself. If you've got a really hot backup and you got a cold starter, there's about, I'd say the backup system, can't remember, I think it's between, the hotness system can add or subtract roughly somewhere between 2 or 3 stars. 3 would be would involve a lot of luck. But if you've got one guy at 0 and the other guy at 5, you can count on probably at least a couple of stars. The difference between them closing by a couple of stars at a minimum. So
I feel like I want to call this system the Brian Boucher system.
Yeah, or the Matt Murray system from the playoffs a couple of years ago, where he pushed Fleury out. Or if you want to go back further, Ken Dryden system or the Mike Moffat system, if you remember the '81 Bruins. But it happens once in a while. You get a rookie goalie in, and he gets a start or two at the end of the year, and then somehow gets thrown into a playoff game. He does great in it. He's really hot. The starter is gone cold, so the coach will go with the hot rookie for all of the playoffs. It's happened plenty of times in the real NHL. Okay, now we want to pick a tactic here, global tactics. I'm just gonna leave that as it is for now. The starting tactic we'll use. It's the wings, so we went for that offensive physical thing. I'm thinking maybe a cycling approach. We're going to be picking up. We want to get some experiences, and with this, and you bring in guys. We got the other Bertuzzi. He's a big guy.
Wait, you're saying we shouldn't go with the Shiro approach?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be gooning it up. That's not fair. Shiro approach is actually much more complex than that. It's actually it's a pretty good one, especially if you're playing in with a lot of fights. But I think
I don't think the 2016, 2017 Twins are built for the Shiro approach. So
it's actually, I think maybe we'll go with the funnel instead and sort of drive the net a lot. That's
I like that.
Might work better with a relatively weakish team like the Wings are right now. Defensive tactic, neutral zone trap. No, thank you.
Shoot the puck wouldn't be bad either.
That's a little too radical, I think. We want something that's
or we go classic dump and chase, because that is a physical. That should be a physical.
I think maybe more do the physical stuff defensively. Let's go with quiet intimidation. I don't think I've ever actually used that in a game before. See how it works.
Quiet intimidation.
Yeah, not totally gooning it up, but big hits, that kind of stuff.
All right. I feel like this would be perfect for like our mid-90s or late 90s Detroit team.
Oh, when we get to the 67, if we do that 67 game next, once we get into the 70s, we can have some fun with the more liberal physical settings.
I think it's definitely getting done.
Okay, I'm not going to worry too much about the tactical settings right now. That since we've got so many rookies and minor leaguers in the lineup now, this is just for the playoffs. The other thing I want to explain about
just for the playoffs
or the preseason, I mean. The other thing I wanted to mention about the hot and cold system, that will change depending on the goalie's performance. So if he gets a shutout, has a game with 40 saves or something, that makes it a lot more likely, or even getting a win is a small chance of improving the hotness rating. So that will tend to move the hot rating up, or having bad games getting pulled, that kind of thing. Losing games will tend to pull it down. It's not guaranteed that you'll go up or down by one every game, although some things like a shutout is pretty much guaranteed to get it up by one.
All right. But, Jeff, I was just going to say, there's a very common question now that we're looking at our tactics and stat screen. I've got on, on our social media, and someone goes, all my players seem to have the two of the same settings. What's going on there? And we can look and we can see guys just kind of our entire fourth line. Everybody's got the two. Yeah,
the fourth line is completely freeform, so that gives the AI. The AI tends to like to use that to pick the same role for both, but we don't necessarily have to do it that way. So I can
yeah, so it's okay to change them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What I was just going to finish saying about the exhibition season. So the exhibition games also count towards increasing or decreasing the heat level. So that's it's now useful to get your starters some time, or at least get both goalies some playing time in exhibition games to get them warmed up the regular season, and so, try to get them fairly hot to get off to a good start. There'll be a slight at the start of the season, the heat rating will revert by 1 automatically, so you won't get the full effect of a really hot goalie in exhibition season carrying over to the regular season, but it helps a little bit. And another thing I should mention we've changed here, you can see instead of the old dot ratings that were here, we've now got a numerical rating that shows exactly how many points, tactical points, that's contributing to the team's tactical scores. And I will, as we get to it, when we get into an actual game, I'll show you a little bit more about how that works. This is going to give you a lot more information on how your tactics are working. But just to briefly explain here, it's the first number is well, basically it's still showing the same information that the old dot system showed, how good the player is in that particular role. So Darren Helm, who we got, oh God help us, he's on our first line, is really good at back checking, playing defensively. So he gets 5 out of 5. He gets 5 stars. The second number there is the maximum number of, that's his rating under optimal conditions. If he's doing things like, you can see playing on the lower lines, you can see that Riley Sheehan here he should normally get 4 stars or 4 rating for playing as a power forward, but because he's on the third line, he doesn't contribute quite as much to the overall tactical advantage of the team. So that's limited. All the guys on the fourth line are limited to 3, to a rating of 3. All the guys on the fourth line are limited to a rating of 2. So even though you can see Mitch Callahan here would normally have 4 stars as a checking forward, 4 dots, whatever, he's only getting 2 here, and so it may actually, now that I think of it, I actually should rearrange the logic on this a little bit for the AI, but I can do things like that. I can take it down to a 2 rating, and it doesn't really have any effect, even though the counterattacking forward would normally be a slightly better one. Okay, I think we are done here. You can see the same deal on the power play and penalty killing screens, but we're not going to fool around with those too much. Another new thing, can't see it yet because it's showing as a tie for everything, but we've added a win-loss indicator to the schedule screen. So when you're going back and trying to see how your team's been doing recently, you can look at this screen, and instead of having to look at the score and figuring out, okay, who was home, who was away, you can see whether or not you won or lost or won in overtime, whatever. That makes it a lot easier. Okay, anything else we need to do right now?
We should check our coaches to make sure we have the right guys in the right spots.
Yeah, good point. Okay, I think it's looking fairly good. Chris Chelios is a defensive coach. Seems appropriate.
Guy plays 40 minutes a night.
Yeah, now I want to... I should just have a quick look at scouting. I've got the AI... Should make sure I've got the AI set to do that. I'm going to let the AI handle my scouting for me. And I think I will let it do training as well for now, just because I don't want to get too far into that right now, because we haven't really changed anything there. And I want to show off the new stuff tonight. Oh, that's what I was looking at. The new screen, just giving us the international tournaments. Okay, I will continue forward, and we'll see if we get a response back from Patrick Elias, and probably get some news about how our guys are doing in the World Cup once that gets going, because I think that started when, on the 18th, was it?
Something like that.
I think so. Yeah, it was 18th because I was in Germany that right around then, and it was starting in the middle of it. Oh yeah, there we go. World Cup has started up, so I will show you that in a second. And looks like we're going to get our 40-year-old winger. I'll play one more day. And just so we get a few stats in the World Cup screen.
Excellent.
Here we go, World Cup. It's the standing screen, which we've always had. A schedule screen, likewise. But way over here, we now have stats. Voila. So you can get, it's the regular leader screen, same as it would be for a regular league, and you can see who's started off well. Wow, Abdelkader's got 6 points already for the States. So nice start for a wing there. And it's pretty much the same numbers, all the numbers that would be in the regular leaders. Team stats there too. That would be in the league leader screen. The only thing we don't have is attendance, because there's not really much of a point in tracking that for international tournaments. Didn't even look and see how we're doing. Yeah, Canada and the US both off to 2-0 starts. And nobody else undefeated. Patrick Eves had a big game too. So Wings are having a nice World Cup here. And I think we've got about 7 or 8 days more before the exhibition season starts off, and we got him. Hello, 40-year-old winger. Curious, does the AI even want to dress him by default? Oh yeah, it does.
Of course.
Well, he wants to. It's not like our second line is anything to write home about right now, but wants to put him on that line. So I'm assuming he'll bump down to third or fourth by the time the season starts. He didn't have too bad a year last year, didn't he?
He was hurt for a portion, was he not?
Yeah, I know he missed a bunch, but I don't think his production was that far off. But you got to wonder if he came back now. I mean, I think he was still hurt for the first few weeks of the season. I think it's weird. I could swear I updated that in the injury file. I'm going to take another look. Oh, I know what I did. I updated the wrong. That was I made a mistake and updated the wrong file to start off with, and I didn't copy his data over from that one, I bet.
Well, we can.
And Connor McDavid goes down. So
I guess it's an important thing for us to do too, is be watching the waiver wire in case anybody shows up who's interested.
Yeah, it probably won't really happen much until right at the start of the regular season, where the guys have to be sent down. What do we got? To Canada, North America, and Russia, USA in the World Cup semis. And who's led the scoring? Abdelkader still leading the scoring.
Abdelkader?
Abdelkader, yep. Somehow. Don't ask me how. And just letting it zoom forward here. We're getting really close to our season start date. I've got the interrupt every day turned off, so it doesn't go really. Wow. Canada gets the win, but Russia knocks off the USA. So Canada-Russia World Cup final.
Interesting.
And Ovechkin and Malkin have moved into a tie for the scoring lead. Pavel Datsyuk leading in assists, we won't have. And we should have our first exhibition game, I think, the same night of as the World Cup final. Oh, very good. Our development report, I can still see the same type of information you get before. Mitch Callahan coming along nicely. This is the training camp one, which combines development from the whole off season. So you tend to See guys improving rapidly. Wow, Sprawl +3 to stamina. Pretty good news, and good news. Better news is nobody's declining.
Very important.
And do we have a final yet? Wow, Russia 6, Canada 3 in the World Cup.
Ooh.
That's
a big difference.
Yeah. Okay, well, we have an exhibition game to play here, so I'll... Whoops. Oh, yeah, right. We gotta send somebody down because we... Oh, wow, we've also got a bunch of our international guys back. Mrazek is back. I can send Kuro back down. I should move these guys to the injury list as well.
Yes, that would create some space for us.
And I did update these starting injuries I was mentioning, so they are a little close to what they were in real life. There'll always be a little bit of variation, just because the built-in randomness in the injury system, but they should be a lot closer to the number of games missed. There are a few guys that came back earlier than expected, and were with the old injury list that we're starting games with. We're sitting out too long. 2 more guys I have to send down. Marchenko, they just traded to the Leafs in real life. Turgeon can go down.
No, he was a waiver pickup, wasn't he? He wasn't traded.
Was he a waiver? I thought they traded him. Might have been a waiver.
I think it was a waiver.
I think we're going to send down Bertuzzi Jr. or nephew or whichever one he is. Okay, let's see what the assistant does with that. Seems fairly reasonable. No more Darren Helm on the first line. And the other thing I should mention about how we're tending to get duplication in here, it depends on the individual tactics as well. Some tactics will tend to encourage more spots being the same on both lines. Although in this one you can see actually it's got Mantha playing him as a center, but giving him different roles on the fourth line. So even the fourth line isn't necessarily always going to get the same roles offensive and defensively. Okay, on to the game, I think. And you can see here that the numbers after the tactic names indicate how effective that tactic is going to be. It's just the total of these numbers. Once you get into the actual game, it'll be affected by other things like the other team's countering tactics and the momentum in the game. But you can get an idea of just what the total numbers are off the start. Same thing with the power play and penalty killing. You'll get a number up there. Those aren't immediately useful, although we can see the Canucks we can compare them to what the Canucks are doing. You can see their offensive tactic is a 67. Ours is also, our defensive tactics is a 67, so they're going to line up okay against each other. What I may want to do is find a countering tactic. Let's go with that. And you can see that's lowered because I've added the countering tactic. That's bumped their offensive effectiveness down by a couple of points. So now I'm going to have the offensive advantage, and I'm able to see this right now, by the way, because I've got the coaching advantage. If I didn't have that, I wouldn't be able to see the exact what their setup is right at the start of the game. I would have to wait for the game to actually start before I got the numbers. But right now, I also want to do something with the offensive tactics. got a 72 versus 70. It's just a small advantage. My power play is 34 versus their penalty killing 39. Gotta change that around a little bit. Their power play is 54 versus. Ooh, yeah, we're not going to be able to get. We're going to get killed in the power play no matter what on their power plays. That no matter what happens, we've got a big disadvantage there. We'll see if switch those to setup man. Even though I lose a point, I'm taking theirs down by a couple. And I think we can continue the game. So, and we've fixed a couple of things. We weren't getting the star player display. There was a bug that was keeping those from showing up, and then one that was messing up the stats when they did show up. So that has all been fixed. And now the other new thing, the reason I've moved my picture over to the side of the screen from where it usually is, you can see all these, the way these ratings are interacting with the tactical scores are interacting with each other. So the Detroit offensive versus Vancouver defense, I've got a green advantage. The green is the same, like the color coding is pretty much the same as the momentum levels. But so I've only got the green, the minimal advantage. Same thing with my defense versus their offense, and my power play versus their penalty killing. But you see they've got a huge power play advantage, which is shown in red, which means they're getting their players will be quite a bit more effective on the power play. They're getting bonuses to their stats when that happens. And we're getting a little close here, so I think I'm just gonna. Is there anything else I need to show offhand? Don't think so. Quick look back at the strategy screen. Yeah, that's good. And Louis Eriksson scores early for the Canucks, if only. And the other things I should mention here, we shrunk the momentum screen down a little bit. Oh, we're off to a great start, aren't we? Shrunk the momentum indicator down a little bit, and we also made a little change to the way momentum is tracked. It now pays a little more attention to what's happened in the current period. It was going back a little bit too far previously. So now that will be a little more current, and that affects the your tactical advantage as well. And we've removed the old little guy with the crown, the silhouette with the lovely little crown to indicate coaching advantage, because that's not really needed on this tactical screen. You only need to know that when you're looking at the strategy screen. So we moved it from there, and we're beating the Canucks 5-2, which is sort of an accomplishment, I guess.
Yeah, well, that's not a bad thing.
And I'm just going to let this run down so we can get through that first game. So you can see the setting of tactics worked out pretty nicely for us. 7-3 win, even though we're still missing a few guys.
Excellent.
Mike Green with a couple of goals. And Jimmy Howard gets the win. Okay. Checking the news. Nobody hurt. No, Anthony Mantha, because we got him at center, has just improved a little bit. That's good news. What?
I was just looking at well, as we know, I have a game that I have my game open just on basically the same thing. Jeff and I share saves, and that's how we see things. And when I'm exploring trades and whatnot, I watch for things that are happening. But one of the news feeds in mine just had James Van Riemsdyk got traded to Montreal for Alexander Radulov. And it just made me smile thinking about that possibility.
Okay, I'm just going to send the next game out against the Rangers. Another 4-3 win for the Wings. And I should go back and take a look at and see how the World Cup turned out. I started to and didn't. And the development report, mostly the minor leaguers that are coming along in this one. There we go. And Kovalchuk's moved into the scoring lead. Still waiting for that World Cup final day, and I'm surprised they haven't played a game by now. What day did the World Cup finish on this year? Was it a Saturday or a Sunday?
I don't honestly
I remember.
It's escaping me.
That we shall see in a second, I think. Oh, we're in the end of the month too, so it takes a second to get through. Okay, here we go. Yeah, I've got a whole bunch of stuff going on. Russia beats Canada for the World Cup, 4-1 in the final game. That's just sad. And Carey Price still manages to get named the best goalie. Malkin is the MVP. Ryan McDonough the best defenseman.
Well, our time's just about up, so where do you want to end this?
Yeah, I think let's take a quick look at the World Cup stats screen. I just want to show you the history thing that we've done too. Yeah, Malcolm led the tournament in scoring. No surprise there. And we've also got, this is the history for international tournaments now, works exactly like regular team and league history does. So you can see that there I'm looking in the World Cup history. If I want to, I can click on that and I get the whole tournament summary there. The number, in this case, goals, the goal totals and the point totals for that year. And if we had more than one in here, I'd be able to go back through all of those and look at them. And at some point I'd like to get all the real historical data in for the international tournaments, but that will be maybe a project for the summer. But yeah, I think that leaves it on. That we can leave it off from here. Jimmy Howard, you can see, has now got that. Show you a little flame icon there because he had a good game. He's had one or two good games, and his heat rating has gone up from cold to cool. So we probably want to get Mrazek into some starts now to get his up a little bit too, and hopefully have one of them at least at average heat levels before the season starts. And I should also mention that the heat levels will tend to decline if a guy isn't used, but they won't decline past 1. They won't go all the way down to 0. 1 is the resting level. The only way you can get down to 0 is if you actually play badly. So that, I think, is about it. Only touched on a few of the... I think I counted something like 170 lines in the update notes, so there are a lot of other changes to be looked at. But that gives you a few of the highlights of the new stuff that we've added. And so for the rest of them, you can go to our forum. And there we go. Mrazek has got his 3rd star already, so now they're even. So may have to change the goalie settings a little bit when we start out next time. But there's a lot of different things, a lot of bug fixes, things that we've finally been able to figure out how to fix that had been sort of lurking around for going back to FHM2, some of them even. There's about 100 plus lines of that. So there are a lot of changes. If you haven't played in a while, definitely worth getting a new game started. The database has been updated as well. A lot of changes have been made in there. So if you want to start a new game, you'll get the full effect of all of that. And probably a whole bunch more we'll gradually get to, and we'll be showing you a little bit more some of the stuff on the historical side next week when we get into our 1967 game. So do you want to wrap it up there, Adam?
Sure. Thanks once again for tuning into another Franchise Hockey Manager stream. We stream every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/OOTP Developments. You can find us on social media, like our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/franchise hockey manager. You can reach out to us on Twitter. We're at franchise hockey. Or if you want to come to our official website to discuss all things FHM3, like this update, the upcoming Out of the Park Baseball 18, you can come to our website, and that is ootpdevelopments.com. Click on the community button, and you'll find yourself on the forums. And I think that's about it.
Yeah, I think Jeff covered pretty much everything. If you got any questions or see anything in the new update you'd like to ask us about, get on the forums, let us know. I haven't heard a lot back from people yet, but it's only been out about half a day now, so I'm not expecting too much yet. But once everybody digs into it this weekend, I'm sure we'll get a few conversations going. Other than that, have a good week. We will see you back here next Wednesday with the 67 Kings, maybe? Possibly. We'll see you then.